County Land and Water, U.S. Forest Service. Who's Chris work for again? LP,
building, yes,
Louisiana
LP
Pacific,
and then DJ.
and DJ from Future Wood. So we had a whole bunch of voices at the table. Kind of came up with a plan of planting. Unfortunately, in Eagle River, there's such a population of deer around here. We could not plant hardwoods without any kind of protection. So through our little tour here, you're going to see several different types of protection. So we did tree tubes, we did some plastic fencing on the Forest Service side, and then we stepped it up one more step on the TFT side and planted an 8-foot tall woven wire fence, which we'll go to see after. As we kind of walk through, we're going to point out a few of the projects that the Lumberjack grants have funded. And the first one is all these picnic tables here. So these picnic tables were all grant funded through Lumberjack, giving us more places that we can have kids gathering outside. So you'll see they're strategically placed. Throughout this little area here is one that we use for our tree identification course. So we'll come out here, hold classes right here, and then we've staged another 4 over there. There's some more behind the dining hall. So we've got several little areas that we can break off into groups with the students and have them sit and still have a place to write. The second one is another project I was lucky enough to work on is our nature playscape. And all these big stumps that you're seeing, so the table that I carved and the chair over there, all came from 150 feet over there. So it's almost a blessing that white pine came down. Didn't hit any buildings, and we were able to use it for a lot of the building. So this is one of the projects that was funded by Lumberjack. It's used all the time. It's amazing how many families know it's here and just park right over here and come and use it. We can just head right out this way and it'll take us to the trail over here. They came through and cut. They prescribed a few like 1/3 of an acre openings. So they just took out selective trees to see what would happen if we could get some sunlight down to the ground. This old Hemlock Forest here doesn't allow any light penetrating down, so we've got very little undergrowth. So they cut this and then planted in the tubes is black cherry and swamp white oak in there. They did try some cedar in a few of our plastic exposures, which we'll walk up here. But the deer ripped those down immediately, and then I had to go back and reinforce with the metal wire that you see around the top. So they're trying to demonstrate a cost-effective way of making a deer exposure, and the first attempt didn't work out so well. And then we came back and reinforced these ones, and they seem to be holding up right now.
I don't know how many Boy Scout members, a couple of leaders, and I came to volunteer a little bit, and their liaison was Chad from the Forest Service. And so they had all the youth planting together along with some Forest Service staff, because again, this part is owned by the Forest Service. And they did their soil and water merit badge at the same time. So
well, you got to wait for them. That's the tough thing about the tubes is those deer stand up on their hind legs, and they're going to trim it right here. So a 4-foot tube, it's going to get it a start, but it's tough because they're so aggressive. So the tubes will stay on until they get above browse height, and then we'll have to go and cut them off. So you're looking 6-8 years probably of protection before you can take it down. And then we got a lowland back here that was ash, I guess still is ash, but the emerald ash borer has gotten into it and they're pretty much all dead back there, so they underplanted all that with the swamp oak and cherry. So they think 8 more around this size, a couple bigger that they put up back there as well. So kind of a combination of protection ideas here.
Other thing you have is you've got elderberry, which is what's totally missing.
Is there a natural elderberry in there?
Right there.
Kita, have you seen since I planted?
No, I haven't.
I've got elderberries this tall back there.
No, it's fantastic.
I bought elderberries to plant back there. So,
Yeah.
So we'll talk about it more when we go over there, but we were looking at all that. Small mammal habitat and bird food and habitat. So we planted a number of species over on our side, inside of these. So this is one of the areas that Cheryl was talking about that had storm damage. So this was an old pine plantation that was planted in the 40s when Trees for Tomorrow took over this property. So we were able to, between our side and here, we were able to take about 1,000 tons of timber off of our land here. This stuff they had to get to as quick as they could because, like Cheryl said, it was all bent over and starting to snap, especially when it got snow load on there. The trees were still alive and green, but it was just they looked like hockey sticks. So it had to go. So they cleared most of it. They did leave some around the outsides. But this area, and you'll see a lot of tubes out here, was planted by the Scouts and Chad, our district ranger. But with that canopy opening up, it made some more work for Rosie, and I think that's a good segue to let you.
Oh boy.
Yeah.
Sooner or later, the segue was going to happen. So, yeah, this is the part of the property that I guess I first started working on in partnership with Justin. 2017-ish, when he came and did a survey on behalf of the Forest Service of, hey, what invasive plants are here, so that once we start to do management, we need to know where did we start from and have something to compare to. This small clearing, it looks like a nice little meadow of grasses over in that direction, was our main focus at the time because that's where we considered kind of ground zero, as well as the boardwalk trail, which we'll get to, of this Marsh Thistle population, which is something, it's a unique species in the state. It's an invasive thistle. Looks like an alien, has all sorts of offshoots coming from a central stem, multiple seed heads on the same stalk. Seems to be moving in from the east and from the north in this area. It is not widespread in the bottom half of the state in the south. Like many of our invasives travel north from more urban centers, larger cities. As people travel up and down our transportation corridors, that's often how we see them spreading. Marsh thistle seems to be an exception in terms of the direction it's coming in from. We know it's been at trees for at least 10 years, as Cheryl said. But that little meadow was just covered, similar to kind of some of the numbers that you see behind me. So we targeted that, as well as a little bit of here and there we would see thistles coming up. But as Todd said, not a heck of a lot of sunlight reaches the forest floor under the great big hemlock or other species that they have. So when Justin did his first treatment, I think in the fall of 2018, it was mainly here, and it was boardwalk and a little bit of spot treatment everywhere else. After the massive storm events of the couple of years after that, as well as the timber harvest, of course we saw the marsh thistle really just take advantage and kind of explode. And it has to be herbicide.
Like probably not.
That's when we're not way
And found this huge patch of barberry and brought them over and showed the thorns on those things, and then just had a little chat with them, and they said, yeah, just eradicate it all. If it's on our property or your property, just get rid of it. So yeah, where we can, we communicate with the neighbors. So now we're on Trees for Tomorrow side of things. So this is where those old Scotch pines that Cheryl were talking about. So this was all a Scotch pine plantation, just like the ones you see around. Some of the nicest Scotch pine timber I've ever seen. So those were planted in the 40s when Trees for Tomorrow took over this piece of land here. So that they go back to the roots of our business here. And it was kind of neat to, with the name Trees for Tomorrow, we were finally able to cut those trees and then thinking about the future generations. So we built this thing. So this is a 100-foot by 100-foot exclosure. And then I built a second 50-foot by 50-foot over there. Now the reason there's two is because we're going to use this for classes and for research. So we have sugar maple and red oak planted in this one. And then for wildlife food and habitat, we have gray dogwood, serviceberry, and elderberry planted with the oaks and the maples. And then over in the smaller one, with the changing climate and the species moving throughout Wisconsin, we planted shagbark hickory in there, and that's got a couple of benefits. So one, to study it with the climate study, but two, when the hickories get large, they start to get a wavy bark on them, and that's roosting habitat for bats. And then of course there's the nuts, the hickory nuts too. So we did half of that is shagbark hickory, and the other half was just left unplanted, so we can monitor natural regeneration. And another thing we did, which did not last very long, is if you notice these white flags out here in the open, we planted 20 maple, 20 oak. Once they budded, they were eaten. So they didn't even make it to our study. So if you look, actually there is a couple that are hanging on and trying to get through, but it seems like every time they shoot out a leaf, they are eaten, and then in the winter it's even worse on them. This project was able to happen because of the Greater Federation of Women's Club. So they gave us $11,400 donation to get reforestation happening here. So with those funds plus NRCS EQIP grant, we were able to build this, and then we ended up planting almost 1,000 trees between the exclosures, and then future considerations of not seeing in our neighbors' windows. I planted a buffer zone of white spruce all the way around our property. So the property line this way, all the way behind the education hall, and then this little U-shape right back up to the condos there is 3 rows of white spruce. I probably won't see it in my days here at Trees to block the neighbors, but with that 75-year lease that we just signed, they'll be here eventually. So.
I don't think it's this one.
No, not yet.
Ouch.
Oh,
Okay,
definitely
maybe
a
it is.
thistle.
I'm pretty good.
We've also used some of the LSR funding from Lumberjack to support invasives work within the exclosures, so that whatever restoration is installed is allowed to continue without the destructive influence of that Marsh Thistle population blowing in the wind and transferred on people's footwear, whatever it may be, into the exclosures. And that is something that, of course, all of the landowners around here are subject to. So we have done a lot of mechanical rosette removal of thistles. There are some that have regenerated, particularly back on that side right there of the marsh and the bull thistle. It is, I would say it's nothing in here that we can't keep on top of, so we're going to just keep coming back and monitoring.